Hey, Mudflaps back with another video. Today it's going to be the Phase 3 Loot Prio guide for the first 4 bosses of TOGC. After that, there'll be a part 2 later that'll discuss the last boss, the tribute chest, Nixia, 10-man items that are interesting, etc. So there are a lot of various ways that loot councils look into how to distribute loot appropriately, wowhead guides, and videos like this. The main goal of how we do loot is we try to make the raid stronger in a way that wastes minimally and still rewards deserving players. Now, if you've already done research on your own gear, you know your own bis, you might want to know what some of the other people that are contending and vying for the same things you are contending for. Hopefully this video helps. For the general framing of loot, I have 5 hard and fast rules to help weigh the options. The first are intangibles, effort, attitude, the things that make raids and guilds run smooth. That's a great way to reward players. Who is helping a lot, has a great attitude, these things, great variables to use. The second, how long will an item be bis? If a player's going to use it for 2-3 phases, that's a great place to put an item like that. Third, who's missing their bis from last phase? Who got unlucky? You can equalize in this phase. Who's getting the biggest eye level increase? That's a great idea to use that instead of still giving to the same people over and over. Fourth, armor type. While a paladin or warrior may want cloth or leather, if they have a second bis that's very close, that's probably a bad idea to give them cloth or leather. So you don't want to have a scenario where you give them cloth or leather, and then when the plate's second bis drops, no one can use it, and now your raid is literally half as strong. So this is the biggest mistake that loot guides and loot councils make. Try not to be like them. The fifth are stat weights. At the very end, if all things are considered and you just don't know who to give it to, well, which spec is getting the most out of this item? Who is going to utilize the stats better? It's a great tiebreaker for distributing loot. Now, for this video, I'm going to have Atlas loot up. It's going to have the Alliance names. It's a really weird phase, but all of the Horde items are in the same slots in Atlas loot, just different names. And with that, let's jump into the first item. Drape of the Untamed Predator. So all the Agi users could use this, but it's depending on who has 252 or not. If they have the 252 and nobody else is missing a 252 and all things are equal, maybe assassination or survival or enhance. I know everyone's going for the big 272, but who knows how many of those you'll get. Even if you get one every week, if your guild is good enough to never wipe the entire phase, you still might not see the type of cloak that's bis for you, right? Random, RNG. So this is a good 6 eye level increase for those who could use the 6 eye levels, and if not, if someone's got even lower, consider them as well. This is just a filler. I wouldn't hold it against them on the way to the big boy cloak. Shawl of Refreshing Winds. Something like Holy Priest or Resto Druid would take this. Again, they want the big boy cloak eventually, but for now, this is quite a good cloak, and consider either of those. Flowing Vestments of Ascent. This is Arcane Bis and Holy Bis. It can go to either. Usually you try to get your DPS a little faster than healers, but it depends on what they're coming in with. Cord of Tenebrous Mist. So this is big for lots of casters. You've got your Demo, your AF, and your Holy and Disc and Shadow Priest. They all want it. But who would you give it to? Well, who didn't get the Algalon belt, right? If everyone has the Algalon belt, give it to your Demo. But if he's got the Algalon belt, this is really, really small. Really, really small. So depending on how many of those you got, I would go eye level here. Again, I'm going to say the eye level thing the most out of all these things because really it feels like the point of this phase is you're prepping for ICC. This is the great equalizer raid where you can get everybody's items into the 250s area. And so if people are already sitting on 252, a lot of these things are going to be very minor for them. But if they're sitting on the 232 or even 239, you're going to get a lot more use, and oftentimes you're going to bring the power of the raid up faster that way. Leggings of the Broken Beast. These are both rogue spec bis as well as feral tank bis. So if your feral tank is your main tank, you could go with him first, but otherwise I would go for your rogues first. Boots of the Unrelenting Storm. You know, unfortunately, these are not bis for anyone, but you know, the boots that druids want are extremely contested, so give them this for now and then see where you are with the other boots later. I have some ideas in the later videos for how to tackle the other boots. Breastplate of Cruel Intent, Enhanced bis, easy. Every now and then there's gonna be items where it's just like clearly and there's no contest. That's really helpful, right? Belt of the Ice Burrower, Resto Shaman, and it's an okay piece. Nothing crazy with this one. Chestplate of the Towering Monstrosity. This is the bis for all the tanks that wear plate, obviously. It's the off piece for all of them. Give it to your main tank first. Bone Shatter Arm Plates. These are Troll Warrior bis. Now for everybody else, I know it's not bis, but expertise and hit pieces are these pieces that are always in flux, right? You get this other big piece later, and you can't wear it without having to gem a certain way or wear some really, really bad piece to get your expertise or your hit up. Well, you should consider picking these up along the way on your path to whatever your main goal is for your gearing, because you're going to want high level expertise and hit pieces in various slots that aren't your bis, true bis, to make things work as you keep getting gear. Otherwise, you can't even put on the big upgrades you get. Okay, so people should always consider the non-bis items as something good to pick up if it has expertise or hit on it, because you never know how you might be able to utilize it. Boots of the Courageous. Holy pally, nothing to say about that. Band of the Violent Temperament. So, DK bis. All of your strength wear bis. However, there's some class greed here. Ret Paladins and Fury Warriors want this ring and they want the Agi ring. So that's going to be pretty difficult to get to them. So you're going to want to choose one or the other. Now you can have a conversation with them in advance, or you can just look at things and say, hey, I got this many strength wearers, I got this many Agi wearers. Which line is smaller? And you can put the Rets and Warriors in the line of which one you have the least of, so they have a better chance of getting it quicker. Now, you can adapt that later based on if this ring or Callous Aggression is dropping at a faster rate. But that being said, DKs only care about this one, and the Agi wearers only care about the Agi one. So it is both a blessing and a curse for the Warriors and Rets. They have two options, but they also, it's harder to get their bis full setup. Blade of Tarask. This is Demo, Af, and Elibis. Here's the thing. Usually you say, oh, Demo. Well, this doesn't have Spirit on it, so it's not really a great massive upgrade for the raid, okay? So consider who doesn't have a 252. Unless they all have 252, then go from there. Just reward the player, because this is going to be a very, very minor upgrade over Star Shard Edge, or even it's significantly better than Constellus, I will say that. So you might want to consider Ellie if they're sitting on that while everyone else has Star Shard Edge. I know, hot take, but this is, again, this is the phase where you're trying to get everyone to a similar standard going into ICC. You're not gaining much by leaving an Ellie with an MP5 weapon while you give a Demo almost no spell gain from Star Shard Edge when you count in the spirit loss. Steel Blade Breaker. This is only Assassination Rogue. Easy enough. I mean, combat could use it as a filler, but you would never give to them before Assassination. Crystal Plated Vanguard. This is your Abyss Tank Shield for the phase. Congrats. And on to Lord Jaraxxus. Pride of the Iridar. Tank Cloak. Again, on the way to the big boy one, 272 at the end, but this is still going to be a small upgrade over the Mimiron Cloak. Leggings of Soothing Touch. So, Demo and Holy. Luckily, there's not that much being contested here. This is one of the bigger Demo pieces because if they're wearing 252 Enslaved Idol, they're gaining a ton of spirit here, which is going to give a massive boost to the spell power. So this is clearly going to go to Demo first. And if they're wearing even worse than that, then even more gain, right? Curus of Calamitous Fate. Feral Tank Biss. That's it. Easy enough. Bracers of Autumn Willow. Resto Druid Biss for both Horde and Alliance, but only Alliance Biss for Boomkins. Horde without the Draenei, their hit is scuffed. They need a worse piece. So, and they have to move things around for that. So, that being said, that's in the True Biss setup. I'm sure Horde Boomkins will still use this on the path towards their Biss setup. Bracers of Cloudy Omen. Just a trash piece, really. Unless you don't have the Hodir Bracers, Pallies and Shamans, they all would still rather wear the Ulduar Bracers. Bloodbath Belt. Ret, Unholy, Fury. I would choose, if all things being equal and everyone has their Biss from the last phase, I would choose Ret and Fury. First off, it's a bigger eye level upgrade from their Biss to Biss. Second, it's a smooth transition with the expertise. Again, I talked about this earlier. Expertise and hit can be really wonky when you're changing your gear up. So this is a really smooth transition for those two. I would consider them first, and then go from there. And plus, Unholy's going to have amazing prio on lots of stuff this phase. Leg plates of Failing Light. Holy Pally, right? Leggards of Feverish Dedication. Blood Decay. It is their Biss. They don't use 4-piece setup. For your other tank, if you don't have one and your tanks want this as an off piece as you're waiting for other things, I mean, still a great piece. Really good piece. Tank Biss Boots. Nothing to say there. Main tank, go. Charge of the Demon Lord. Okay, really contested neck, but overhyped. Overhyped. This is Pendulum of the Infinity plus just a teeny bit more. It is barely better than Pendulum of the Infinity. So people who already have that, you're gaining virtually like it's almost single digit increase. It's very little. But people who never got Pendulum, who it was their Biss, consider them. Bring them up to speed with everybody else. Now, if somehow you have enough of them to where everybody has it, awesome. Then you just reward the player that's most deserving, because this is not a drama piece. Don't let it be a drama piece. It is extremely minor for everybody. The only people it's going to be major for are people who are not wearing the 252 neck already. Ring of the Darkbender. all your healers except Disc because, haste. So just give it to who... Maybe somebody is missing that Freya ring, right? And they're just wearing something really crappy in one of their slots. Most of the healers will have the Algalon ring, and then the other slot could be this. Solace of the Defeated. Ooh, big item. I know there's like a back and forth between people who are like, this is so big, and then a bunch of people saying, oh, this is, who cares, Show of Faith is so close to this after it got buffed. Really not true, right? Sure, the spell power gain is minimal compared, but each time you cast a spell you gain, etc., is so incredible. It is so incredible. It is build defining. It is the most famous trinket of Wrath for healers, without question. So this is a big item. This is something to be really excited for. Don't let people be like, oh, God, soulless. That's crazy talk. I'm hearing people talk about it like that. So I would give it to Disc Priests and Resto Shamans first. It is so massive for them, and they're already helping your raid by keeping their past tier into this phase, right? They have freed up so much conk and prot, or just trophies in general, either way, whichever you're getting, they're freeing that up for people twice because you need to use both. So they should be before others on this. In my opinion, I think that's a good way to reward them and spread the love. Symbol of Transgression, you've got Fire, Shadow, Boomkin, they all want this. Who's got Cosmos? Who's missing Cosmos? That's my first thing I'm going to look at here. Again, we're trying to bring everyone up into the 250s. If everybody has it and you're that lucky, maybe Fire or Boomkin first. But, I wouldn't sleep on Shadow. They're rising a lot as well. But yeah, it's up to you guys. At the end of the day, the eye level one is going to be the most important factor for this if you're going to make your raid the strongest it can be. Lion Head Slasher Combat Bis offhand, really nice. Talon Strike, Bis, Survival second Bis, well there's only two. I know that this is technically Bis for Fury Warriors, but it's a stat stick. The gain is very tiny for a melee when you're getting a stat stick, while the gain, even if it's just a few eye levels for a hunter, it's their weapon. It's the same as giving a Voldrathar, if for some reason that were good for hunters, and saying, yeah, you got Aesir's Edge, how much is Voldrathar really? You don't really need that warrior, let's give it to the hunter for the stat stick. That's the same argument. So you should not give this as a stat stick over someone who's going to use it, even if they're going to replace it, because the gain is just so much more than doing something that silly. So consider that when using these items, when distributing these items. And moving on to Cloak of Displacement, we're at Faction Champions. This is going to be a hit option as a filler. So all the casters want the big boy 272 cloaks, but on the path there, again, hit will be in flux. You're going to want to grab hit pieces that are upgrades on the way to other gear. The one thing I will say to both sides of this equation, so the Loot Council, don't hold it against people that take upgrades that are side grades, and then raiders who are at the mercy of your Loot Council, do not pass on obvious upgrades in hopes for Mega Bis. Don't try to game the system or something, whatever you think, oh, if it's not true Bis, I'm not going to go for it. That is also insane. Make your raid stronger, take the upgrades, utilize the hit where you can. It's a very good piece. Cord of Biting Cold. Now, this is kind of a weird one, okay? Fire Mage Bis, Ellie Bis, Boomkin Bis, Enhance Bis, and Discipline Priest Bis. Alright, so where do we start with this? Fire Mage, obviously, put them at high prio. I put one other spec there. Ellie Shaman. Ellie Shaman does not have a 258 piece or a 252 piece that is good. It's MP5 stuff, right? Like, they don't really have an option. So I put them here, even though it's cloth, because essentially their second best option is a crafted 232 piece. Come on. So we have them there. Then who else? We've got the Enhance. Why are we putting Enhance in this mix? Well, they have a 258 option. The Merciless Killer Belt, we'll get to it. Well, that's going to have a line. And it's technically worse than this. But it's good. So they technically have an option. So I'd put them behind the other two that don't have options. But I would put them in the running for this, because this is better than the Belt of Merciless Killer, and especially on Cleave, right? It's going to be their true Bis. And the line won't be, no one's running 4 Ellies and 5 mages, right? So fire mages. So the line won't be crazy to get this to an Enhance in this phase. Then you've got Boomkin. Boomkin, I have a solution for you, and that is the Court of Pale Thorns plus the Icy Flow Boots off a noob. We'll get to those items, but I did all the sims, all the things. Those two items are essentially completely uncontested. 258, you could get them right away, and it sims almost identically to this with this combo, which is in the Bis setup. And let me tell you, the line for this, it ain't pretty. And then this line is moderately, if we're gonna add you into the group of the others, then this becomes more contested, right? Why do that at all when the Belt of Pale Thorns is just Resto Druid Bis, if you even have one in your raid? If you don't, it's just yours. And it sims almost identically. And then the hit boots off a noob, no one put it in their Bis setup. Everyone wants these. So it's like this hit option. Why not put Boomkins first on those? Completely uncontested. Now Boomkins have 258 pieces that were completely uncontested that sim almost the same. It's a no-brainer. I highly, highly recommend doing that. And then at the end, your Disc Priest wants it once everyone else has it, even though it has hit on it, purely for the stats, the way the stats work on this. Boots of Mourning Widow. Okay, here we are. One of the most contested pieces. Weird that it's boots, even though there are other options. So, all things considered, give it to the caster who is missing eye level. If everybody has the eye level that they're supposed to have, or got lucky enough to have, if everyone's running 252 or something, you can go with Demo, or you can just go with who you think is deserving, who's not getting stuff in other slots, because even though Demo is always going to get the most out of a tie piece, it's not much on this, right? It's not a big improvement with this piece. It's very minor. Vestments of the Shattered Fellowship. This is a strict upgrade from Blind Denizen, but it's very minor. Again, it's not based on anyone's setup, so just give it to the druids that are willing to take this upgrade in lieu of the other things for now. Treads of the Ice Walker. So, you have this for Feral, Combat, and Assassination. Give it to your Armor Pen classes, Feral and Combat before Assassination. It's going to be huge for all three, because they're coming in with 232s. Bracers of Untold Massacre, Hunter. Wait. And who else really loves Int on their gear? Fury Warriors. No, I am not joking. After your Hunter, give to your Fury Warrior. They want these. These are really good. There's that even with the Int. I know, we're seeing some weird stuff. We want to give healers hit pieces. We want to give Fury Warriors Int pieces, you know. Just a normal tier, right? Laggards of Concealed Hatred. These are an okay Resto Shaman piece. Nothing crazy here. Boots of Trembling Earth. Bis for all three Shaman specs. give to the biggest upgrade. That easy. And if it's not, if they're all equal in that regard, there's really nothing that sets this apart for one or the other. It's just a really nice piece for all three. Chestplate of the Frostborn hero. This is a holdover piece for Unholy. They could use it in some setups. Hit haste, it's a lot of hit. They probably won't need that in many setups, but it's a lot of haste. It's not part of any BIS setup, so maybe they can use it. If not, unfortunately, this might often be DE'd. Vam Braces of the Broken Bond. Holy Pally will use it if they don't have the better Hodir Bracers. Girdle of Bloody Scars. Main tank. Ring of Callous Aggression. Now we're at that Agi ring. We talked about the Strength ring earlier. Things were a little interesting with that. We talked about Strength wearers, depending on how much of what you have in your raid. You're probably going to have more Agi wearers. So Fury and Ret probably should go for the other ring. The line is probably going to be shorter. They can get that ring quicker, depending on what prio you want to do in your guild. Now, if all things were equal for Agi wearers, I would go with Enhance and Assassination first on this, and then go from there. There is a really, really great Armor Pen ring from 10 Man that's also to be considered. Citrina's Impeding Scarab. Recognize these names. Tank Trinket. Justice Bringer. Warriors Rejoice. Uncontested. Straight upgrade from Voldrathar. Really nice. Bastion of Purity. It is all of the Caster Shield wearers BIS. You can give to whoever's missing Wisdom's Hold, or just who hasn't been getting things. Moving on to Twin Val'kyr. Skyweaver Robes. Alright, these are going to be pretty contested because all the AF and all the Fire Mages are going to want them. You're probably running multiple of each, so you're going to hope quite a few of these drop. It's a massive piece for both. The thing is, it's hard to pick one over the other. You're going to have to go with some of the context will be other loot, other big loot, who's getting what in your raid. Fire is going to have some really, really good prio on some really big things. So you might want to, as a tiebreaker, go with AF, but it just depends. If your AF locks are just sitting on a bunch of loot and your Fire Mages aren't, then you can go Fire first on this. So it's going to be big for either. They're both walking in with 232s. Bindings of Dark Essence, Fire Mage prio, and then Horde Boomkin prio if they don't want to go for those other bracers along the way. And then those greedy Discipline. They wanted their hit piece so that they can get this eventually as well. Luckily, it's not a crazy line on this piece. And it can be a hit filler for other piece after those classes get it. Belt of the Merciless Killer. So you've got Feral, Combat. You've got Assassination and Enhance, we said. Although I would say Enhance would rather have the Cloth Belt. So, in this regard, if everybody's got the 10-man belt coming into this, which they should, a caveat for my thing about, whoever needs the highest, or whoever gets the highest eye level upgrade, here's the thing. If somebody's not running 10-mans, and that's why their eye level is low, absolutely do not reward that person. That is a person that's holding back your entire guild. They should be running 10-mans on their own time. That is literally their responsibility to be doing. If they got really unlucky and you know that they're always running it, they're not getting it, that's a completely different story. That's the exact time to help somebody out. Now, back to this though. If all of them are wearing the Yogg belt with all that expertise, it's really hard for Assassination to make use of this without doing a bunch of shenanigans with like expertise gems and things. So I wouldn't give it to them before I would give to Feral or Combat, because they have talents for that, right? They're able to drop it where they want. It's much easier for them to work their expertise around in their gear. Assassination is starved for it, right? So put assassination at the end of this, in my opinion, with all those variables considered. Cord of Pale Thorns, Rusted Druid Bis, Boomkin Bis in the setup I explained earlier. It is very, very close. It is simming very, very close to the other setup. Consider this. Druidic elements that can use it, right? We gotta be smart about loot. Sabatons of Ruthless Judgment. Hunters, congrats, uncontested. Breastplate of the Frozen Lake. Congrats, Paladins. Bracers of the Shield Maiden. Congrats, main tank. Now, something to note for this, just to reiterate, there was no hard mode 10 or 25 man bracers for plate wearers, so this is going to be actually a really big upgrade. So this is something to be very excited for until no one can use them anymore. But even for the people who are off-spec tank, which there should be a lot of those in your guild because people need to do those 10 mans. I mean, badges, you need so many badges to be able to get your gear this phase. So this is going to be useful. A lot of the tank gear, even after the tanks of your 25 man get it, is still going to be useful because people need tank gear to run those 10 mans. Leggards of Ascension, Ret and Unholy, tiny upgrade from Flame Leviathan. If they don't have Flame Leviathan, massive. Give it to that person. If not, it's just minor for both, but it's an upgrade. It's part of their BIS setup. Equal prio in my book. The Arbiter's Muse, main tank. Executioner's Malice, your strength wearers minus your fairy warriors. So you've got Frost, Unholy, Ret. They all really want this. Well, who gets it first? You know, we're giving Unholy and Ret a lot of prio, especially on haste things. This doesn't have haste. That always makes me lean towards Frost if all things are equal, because when you see haste and the other things, you always think the other two, and then Frost gets left out, even if it's their bis sometimes too. Wail of the Val'kyr. Okay, bis neck for all the casters and healers and just everybody, right? But if you have a 252, this is kind of minor. It's just like the Agi neck that people wanted. If you already have a 282, this is really minor. But that being said, if you don't, this can be very, very big. And there is one other way in which 252 upgrade to this becomes bigger, and that is if you need to drop hit. And now this becomes a much bigger piece. And so that is something to consider when handing this out. Loot notes are very helpful for, hey, I got this piece, I can use this if I swap this hit around if I get this. Something to consider for a tiebreaker between deserving players. But there's no spec that I would say gets this first. Demo doesn't want this because they're using the Iron Council deck, right? And but all the other casters want it. Here we are. Death's Verdict. Probably the most, even though less people want this than want this, there's probably going to be way more drama about this. So, all of your Fizz DPS want it, but who should get it? There are all the class Discord saying they should get it, they should get it, they should get it. But why? And what's a smart way to do this? Well, Unholy, lots of people want to give it to Unholy, lots of people want to give it to Ret, lots of people want to give to Hunter. Even I see people putting Fury Warriors in there. Here's the deal. Here's one way to consider this. What are the two most famous trinkets for Fizz DPS in Wrath? See, we have the benefit of knowing what's coming. Death's Verdict and Deathbringer's Will. Deathbringer's Will, obviously, the Armor Pen trinket. Who are you giving the Armor Pen trinket to? You don't put them on this list, right? You gotta go one or the other. And whoever's getting this has told you they ain't getting the other one. All right. So armor pen classes, Fury Warriors, Combat Rogues, Feral Druids. Somewhere in the middle here is Frost DKs. What do you do with that? But let's say all those are really big into armor pen. That should be your top 4 for Deathbringer's Will. If that's the case, they should not be anywhere near the top of Death's Verdict. So in this scenario, Unholy, Ret, Hunter, and technically you could do Assassination Rogue, but I have another thing for that. This is actually massive for them. No one's talking about that. It's fine though. They have other things in the future to look forward to. So of those, that's how you should figure this out. Who is getting what where in the future, plan in a larger spectrum than beyond one small phase, right? Because you're going to have to share the love, and you only are going to see so many of any of these trinkets that are being mentioned, right? So that is my best advice for your guild. Hunters, survival hunters, Unholy DKs, Ret Paladins, they're going to use it essentially for the rest of the game, and they should be super stoked to use it for the rest of the game. Even though there are other things that technically they could have. Once they've gotten this, they're last on the other things in the next phase. That is just how things work, right? And that means you can have a conversation with all your Fizz DPS in advance if you want to. For Assassination Rogues, I think they should get first Tiny A-Bomb in the next tier, and that'll be their big thing. But that being said, I know all these specs can use all the trinkets, and it's like, yeah, but my Megabyss has all the best trinkets that everybody wants. Well, yeah, good luck, right? How many of these are you going to have to drop in any of the phases? So go with that, in my opinion, and consider all of those variables. And good luck with this trinket. I hope it drops a lot for you. Chalice of Searing Light. Demo, Prio first, then Disc and Holy could use it. Here's the thing. Demo, this is going to be really big because Cosmos didn't have any spirit. So this is going to be one of the bigger spirit spell power gains for the Demo and essentially your raid. So nice piece there. Twin Spike, Crap Dagger, unfortunate. This is going to be pretty worthless right off the bat. Lupine Longstaff, Feral Tank Staff, best in slot. And if they don't ever tank, it's still going to be slightly better than what they're coming in with. So give it to Feral either way. It's just we had this talk with the Hunter weapon early. These things, these staves, are stat sticks for hunters. They should always go to Feral first, no matter what, even if they replace it, because the gain, I said this in past loot videos, the gain a Feral gets from a weapon is infinitely more than what a stat stick for a hunter will give them, and thus the raid. It's just silly to do anything else with it. So that being said, that is the end of the first 4 bosses of TOGC. This is the part 1 of the loot guide, and I hope it was helpful. I shall see you on the next one. Like and subscribe, and if you have any questions or ideas, anything I missed, please add it to the comments. I'd love to hear it. With that, I'll see you on the next one.